It's Mick and Allen on K-Bear. Guess what's going on in a place called Sochi?
What's going on?
Not the Olympics, because the Olympics are actually about 50 miles, 60 miles away.
Oh.
And it is like a summer tropical resort, Sochi.
Yeah.
Getting pictures back, people laying out on the beach in bikinis. And it's just amazing that there's Olympics going on. It's time to talk Freak Show Sports with DP. DP, how you doing, man?
First of all, I'm going to try to reach through the phone and find Jimbo's undersized neck and shake it for taunting me with 60-degree weather.
Thank you.
Yeah, how is it there today?
Let's see. 15 inches yesterday.
I'll quit bragging.
Yeah, I was going to say, how about the snow?
It's cold out. It was. It's been crazy. We got a couple more last night, and we're supposed to get some more tomorrow. So for the East Coasters, it's been a rough couple of days.
Isn't that crazy? You were here in Utah, snow, cold, wintry. Then you leave to go to back to D.C., Virginia, where it's winters are usually a little more mild. I mean, it's not that you don't get anything, but it's a lot more mild than Utah. And,
yeah.
And now it's like bam.
Yeah, it's and this is a different kind of snow. This is that heavy, I'm going to break your back if you try to shovel it snow.
Oh, man.
This is the snow that breaks the snowblower and then laughs at you.
And then kicks you in the nuts.
Well, I figured I know everybody's into fit, being workout and being fit, and I've found a new workout that will quite frankly get everybody in shape. Just put on 2 or 3 layers of clothes and go out with an old-fashioned shovel.
Yeah.
And try to clear a driveway that is, I don't know, 200 feet, 300 feet by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How's your back feeling?
Yeah, that'll do it.
Yeah, that will do it.
Well, he started this whole conversation out with back-breaking snow.
That is, yeah. And more expected, huh?
Being humbled is what that's called.
I was hearing reports of up to 100-car pileup on the Pennsylvania Turnpike this morning, too.
Yeah, even in the D.C. and in the Richmond areas, there have been just the multi-car pileups are just happening all over the place. People just aren't smart enough to stay on the road. You guys in Utah have figured out how to do it right. The East Coast folks just, a little too stubborn, a little too smart for their own good.
Yeah. Have you ever had an opportunity to meet either Derek Jeter or A-Rod?
Both. Met them both.
What was your impression of the two guys?
Oddly enough, and I'll say this, A-Rod was the nicer guy.
Really?
A-Rod was the nicer guy. And just on a one-to-one, as far as men being men and expectation and how you interact, A-Rod was a bit of a sheep, actually. He was a bit of a lamb.
I was listening to an interview with a writer for one of the sports papers out in the New York area, and he said exactly the opposite. He said that Derek was a nice guy. A-Rod was wanting to be Mr. Superstar.
Nick, but let me say this to you, and understand, you know me well enough to understand that there's certain clubs that you get in and that are different in how you do it. That I kind of relate to people differently, especially athletes, pro athletes in particular. Yeah. So I can get conversations going on that most people can't.
Okay.
So A-Rod to me was a guy that confided that it was all a bit too much traffic for him, a little bit too much chaos. He would much rather not be in the light. That wasn't really. I mean, he's the guy that when you find out, he really just wants somebody to like him.
Okay.
Whereas Jeter has a bit of that Kobe, I was born to be great kind of vibe about him.
But he did never say that, though.
Well, no, I mean, Jeter will talk, just in the way that they talk about other people. And I'm always a fan of, if you really want to measure somebody, find out what he says about somebody that's not really there looking out for him.
Yeah.
A-Rod was much nicer to the lower man who was simply just being a guy, as opposed to Jeter, who was a little bit more on high. Certainly, certainly a little bit more elite in his own head.
Yeah, and I bring this up because both these guys are coming to the end of careers. One purposely, the other it's kind of just happening. But I've always liked Derek Jeter. I was never a fan of the Yankees, but I just always liked Derek. I just always thought he was a cool dude.
Oh no! And let's be clear. I love Derek Jeter as an athlete and how he handles his business. You know, with that. I was talking just from a guy sitting next to a guy that's you know, and as guys talk, and you're watching him watch people.
Yeah. When I was listening, yeah.
And I understood it because he was in the same look. He's in that class, a guy like Kobe, who would say something that was just in passing, a light comment, but to me it held more weight because it was coming from Derek Jeter.
Okay.
A-Rod was the guy that would put his arm around you and talk about. You know, he would ask you how your day was. You know, how in this crazy. You know, what's this like for you?
Boy, you know what I'm learning too right now is the guy who I heard who was the writer was saying pretty much exactly what you're saying, but reverse the two guys. But this guy, the only thing he would possibly have in common with these guys is that he writes stories about their team. And,
yeah, I mean,
that's where it ends.
That happens. I mean, it's that thing that, you know, while in Utah and covering John Stockton and Karl Malone, I think I was one of the first ones to say, actually, as much as I love John Stockton, I thought that Karl Malone was more real. I thought he was a nicer guy to everybody, not just to a certain group of people.
Is it tough for these athletes to do interviews and be able to trust the guy that's interviewing them?
That's the big thing, and that I think I tend to be around guys that will let their guard down around me, because I've never slighted them in a way that wasn't fair to them. I've always been fair and given them the right kind of public light. So, you know, whether it be the Redskins, Panthers, whatever it was, those were folks that trusted that I was going to tell their story in the right way.
Yeah.
You've been keeping up with the Olympics?
Yeah.
Or can I say that, keeping up with the games?
To keep track of until now. I mean, now that hockey is taking place and, you know, the skaters are back on ice. But this has been a bunch of folks, and unless you're from Utah or from Colorado, this has been a bunch of folks that you didn't know, and quite frankly, you still don't know.
Yeah.
You still don't know. And that's problematic for folks that invested a whole lot of money into an event that, quite frankly, they could have held this, you know, with no lights on and nobody would care.
Yeah. It's pretty interesting. I think the one team in Sochi right now that has everything riding, has the most pressure, would be the Russians. You know, the Russians have always been known for their hockey, and now they're the home team, and I think it's very important for them to get the gold.
Well, I mean, when you're the host country, and you spend a lot of money, and there's been scrutiny on why it's there, and you know what your agenda was, and you haven't exactly handled the political correctness angle in a way that most people would prefer. Well, you better win some medals to make it look right. You know, yeah, we are worthy of this. We should have been the host. The athletes respond, but that hasn't been the case either. So
no.
There's some pressure, you know, recently that they need to win hockey, which it doesn't look like they will.
I'll tell you what, they sure did not look that good yesterday. They looked slow. They looked unenthused, uninterested. And I thought they were kind of lucky to get the win over the first time Slovakia, I think it was, has ever fielded a hockey team.
Yeah, I mean, this is you know, interesting. Just just imagine, flip this and imagine that this was being held in America in any city, and the American team wasn't producing. What an absolute nightmare that would be from a PR standpoint. The same thing's going on over there. I mean, they're trying to draw attention, draw interest. They've asked the kids to be let out of school, you know, early, and that they're not given homework so that they can watch the Olympics and get involved. But there's, again, their star factor hasn't exactly produced either. I mean, they're a world-class skater that, he got out and got injured. He retired immediately following. Now they got to fill that. The women haven't performed. It's just not going the way the Russian Federation would like.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, the USA women's hockey team sure looks good. They lost to Canada on a controversial call. But if you're going to let that be the decision maker, then you really need to look at yourself anyway. But, God, we got some good teams. Our hockey, both female and male, looking awesome.
Yeah, the men's slope style kicked ass last night. Gold, silver, bronze.
Swept that.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're watching this, and again, I think, I said before, I didn't know where the star factor was going to come. But these are names, especially from the men's side, these are names that folks at least can identify. There is some shared interest in it. It's kind of difficult, like here in Washington, where you've got Alexander Ovechkin, who's now skating for Russia, but you're paying attention to that. You're not rooting for Russia. You're rooting for Ovechkin when they're not playing the U.S., and that at least is shared interest in how their team goes. That's what's got to happen here. Normally there are stars born, and there have been zero personality stars drawn from this thing so far. That's just sad.
In what you mentioned a second ago, Alan, what was that?
The men's ski slope style.
What is that?
That's
the kind of the free form down the mountain.
They do like the rails at the top, and then they do the 3 big jumps at the bottom.
Is this what Faye was doing in the women's side?
No, she's doing snowboard cross.
Okay.
There's my point exactly. You don't know the events. You don't know the people. Outside, like I said, outside of those regions that produce, a few stars in the sport. If the areas that are into extreme sports, especially the extreme winter sports, outside of that, America doesn't know. They don't know. If you ask somebody what that was, they wouldn't know. They'd have no idea, and they wouldn't know who was performing and who was good at it. So,
is this unusual?
That's always been the problem with the Winter Olympics.
Yeah, I was going to say, it doesn't seem like this is unusual. It seems like that's always the case.
Yeah.
We never watch ice skating,
and you don't know them till the Olympics, and then you get to know them and get to find out their stories. And I'm with you. You're not. It doesn't seem like we're finding those stories out.
Do you want to know who they are?
In a way, I guess, but at the same time, I've been my take of this whole thing from the beginning is I'm kind of more excited now about these more extreme sports, the jumping, the big air, whereas it used to be when I would watch, you'd watch back in the day and you'd be excited or interested at least in ice skating, the men's and the women's, and you'd find out who these were, Kristi Yamaguchi. Just think of the names because of figure skating. Did you ever watch figure skating before the Olympics?
No.
But right now, I still couldn't tell you one figure skater's name.
Neither could I.
Through this Olympics.
I couldn't either.
And it isn't. Don't you find that weird?
Guys, I think a part of the issue is that a lot of the sports are new to the Winter Games. These aren't traditional sports in the sense that they have, that long history behind them, that resume of history behind them. Half pipe, that's new.
Yeah.
That's new. So I don't know. And in my mind, America should be better at those sports because those are sports that are something that we can do here. It's not like the Summer Olympics where you have sports that have history, they have resume, they have legends. They have legends. They have some point of reference where you can go back and say, oh, I remember, this particular sprinter or this Mark Spitz as a swimmer or this, Muhammad Ali, Cassius Clay in the Olympics, or Foreman or Sugar Ray Leonard. Or, you don't have that resume of history. So that's problematic for the Winter Games in itself. The women skaters and the downhill slalom, we can go back to that, and there's some point of reference. But when it comes to the newer sports, there is no history. There is no emotional connection. People aren't vested in the history of the sport. So there really isn't that much interest.
We had Faye Gulini on our show, and she's doing the snowboard cross where there's 4 people at once going down. So I'll give you a name to kind of keep an eye on the women's snowboard cross, and that would be Faye Gulini.
Yeah, and she's going to be, I think her event is the 16th.
Is it?
Yeah.
And one thing that I noticed
Sunday.
There was another woman that was doing downhill events,
mm-hmm.
and she had to borrow pants and was wearing broken boots. And when we were talking with Faye, there's nobody giving her anything. She had to put her own boards together, her own clothes, her own everything.
Yeah.
And I was shocked to learn that. I thought these kids were taken care of.
Well, some of them are.
Okay.
Yeah, I promise.
Tomato, I'm
yeah,
sure.
I was going to say, I promise Shaun White did not buy his own board.
Well, but I would also say that. I mean, again, for people that you want supermen, you want superhuman at the Olympics. That was what the Olympics always were.
Yep.
We're the elite athletes on the planet, the elite physical specimens, and now the Winter Games have become almost a carnival. It's a winter carnival as opposed to really just matching up the best athletes on fair ground from across the world against each other to represent their country. I mean, look, you don't find the Usain Bolts of the world at the Winter Olympics. You're not comparing apples to apples, and that's the problem. The difference between the Winter Olympics and the Summer Olympics is that there seems to be the thought that there's more athletic integrity in the Summer Olympics than there is in the Winter. And there are too many. I mean, now we're doing synchronized snowboarding as a Winter Olympic competition. That's a bit much for most people.
Yeah, no kidding. All right, well, this weekend is the NBA All-Star break. Anything to be excited about for that?
Well, the Lakers are 18-35. If that doesn't get you excited,
oh yeah.
I mean, look. I just love the fact that Laker fans, in their absolute silence, have submitted. They've just become submissive to the season, and it's been long overdue and wonderfully, just beautiful to watch. Those fans have to digest that crow.
Kobe's face in hands is such a beautiful picture.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that all of the things that they've said about other fans in the area and not understanding what it's like to go through those kind of seasons. Well, welcome to reality. Welcome to the NBA. This is what it looks like from the bottom.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and I was even going a step further, looking at two of the most storied franchises in the NBA, the Lakers and the Celtics, are both in that same position this year.
Well, you broke down and gave up legends who have done well and will probably end up in the playoffs with the Brooklyn Nets. You didn't take care of your franchise. You didn't take care of your stars. There's some belief that you can just simply refuel and retool, and at some point there has to be some loyalty to the guys that have held your banner up in the recent years, and neither of those teams have done a good job in doing that. But here's the other point: when that happens, when those elite teams fall down, now you get the new stars, and Durant is being everything that everybody wants him to be.
Mm-hmm.
He's making a bid for the MVP. But I would say this: two guys that have had probably better seasons for them compared to where they were and where everybody sees them. But if you start talking top five players, I think that Kevin Love and Seth Curry should be in the MVP conversations. Seth Curry, for what he's done for Golden State, is absolutely as valuable as what Kevin Durant does for Oklahoma City. I mean,
True.
when you're fourth or fifth in scoring, first in assists, first in steals, look, Seth Curry, for what you're doing, brother, that he's made that team a valid contender in the West. He's made them maybe the second or third most watchable team in the NBA. And I think if you're going to talk about the NBA and what's happened this year, the development of the young stars and the emergence of them becoming superstars, not just the guys we know, but the guys that we have to watch. When they become must-watch basketball, the NBA has done a great job of breeding and growing new stars. Proud of them.
When you talk about not taking care of your stars and all that, boy, the composite of the new America is exactly that. And it's going on from business to sports. And when you look at that, you go, man, that is the frame and the picture inside the frame of what we all live today. Well,
that's problematic for me, and I've said this about people in business, and I've said this about people in this particular profession, that beware of when somebody shows you that's who they are. That the new, forget about the girl that helped you when you had nothing, helped build you up, helped build a home, help you build success. that you always have an eye for the young, hot girl who comes along who tells you they can make your life better simply because they're hotter and younger.
Yeah.
When that thing transitions to sports and in life, that's not a good place for you to be. And those are people that quite frankly, usually get their comeuppance sooner than later.
Yep.
Those franchises and those coaches that feel like those players are replaceable more so than the coaches themselves usually find the short end of the stick, and that's a good thing.
And that also translates into all business, man.
Yep. So true.
Well, I mean, if you're not loyal to the people that are take care of the people that take care of you.
Yeah.
That's something, my grandparents told me a long time ago. If somebody loves you enough to love you, then you better give them love. You better show them love, because that's where it is. And from a business standpoint, the Utah Jazz need to figure that out. You need to figure that out, because people who want to play for Utah should play for Utah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they need to remember that.
Yep. NASCAR, Danica is pretty much saying that Petty can have his opinion if he wants it. Stewart's getting ready to return. He says his leg is about 65%. Gordon is insisting that he will retire with his 5th Cup title.
Whoa.
So his car and his staff have been, the rumblings around the business is that, Jeff Gordon seems to be prepared to make a run. Stuart Haas and what they're doing, they're retooling. They seem to feel like this is going to be a better year for them. 1 year removed from winning the Cup, and Danica took the high road.
Yes, she did.
And again, just when you forget that it is still a good old boys network.
Yes, it is. And so a lot of people, DP, are thinking what Petty's saying. They're just not going to, they're not going to admit it.
And the fact that she had the bigger balls and went on ahead and said, I am not going to respond to you at your level.
Yeah.
It's a new age. Bravo for her.
Yep.
More fans for Danica.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it's sad to see Richard become the grumpy old guy.
Yeah, isn't it? But didn't you have a feeling?
Really
didn't
is.
you have a suspicion that he would be that guy?
Yeah, but you just hate to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
No, you hate to see it. You already know it.
Yeah, you already know it. Exactly. All right, DP, thank you, man, and have fun this weekend with your Olympics.
Yeah, the snow Olympics in my backyard.
Yeah, your shovel Olympics.
Gold medal, baby.
I wish you lived closer. Alan's got a new snowblower. He would have borrowed you.
Yeah,
he doesn't need it.
Everybody's got a new one except for when you need it in your
I was going to say, I don't need it here.
Shut up.
60 degrees and maybe a little rain.
It's rained so much that it has melted all the snow.
Yeah, the palm trees are budding.
Yep.
You, sir, are getting the spirit finger.
All
right, see you, buddy.
Thanks, DP.